Welcome to the Forging Podcast, where our mission is to forge guys into godly husbands, fathers, men, and leaders in their communities. We push out of our comfort zone, face our fears, and grow stronger every day. We strive to be selfless providers, dangerous protectors, loving husbands, fathers, and friends. I hope you all enjoy the podcast. To the Forging Podcast, and I'm back. And it feels good to be back. I missed my friends, Miss Brett and Blake, my wife, I guess a little bit, maybe. But no, I miss being on here and talking to everybody and all that. So listen, we are continuing with our parenting conversation. I've been out a couple weeks, and Brett tried to give me a hard time about that. But hey, not all of us can be fried taters smothered in gravy. All right? Yes. I had to throw it in there because that was the funniest thing I've heard in my life.
You loved that.
I did. I loved it so much.
I kind of felt a little bad.
I think we're actually gonna make a shirt. It's gonna have the Forging Podcast logo on the front, and on the back is gonna say "Fried taters smothered in gravy."
I told him, I was like, you send them a text right now and say, do not make fun of my husband. My wife is coming.
Courtney is in protection mode here. I see how it is, Brett. You got your wife to stick up for you.
That's right. We stick up for each other around here.
Autumn, she's like, Jared, you're on your own. So we've got Autumn and Courtney, and it's me and Brett. Blake is out being Blake. And we're going to continue this parenting conversation, and we're going to talk about teaching our children and what that looks like. And I guess this could kind of go in the discipleship, but being that Courtney and Autumn both homeschool, and Courtney's head of the co-op, this would be maybe geared more towards education over discipleship, but I guess it's also partially discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once again, Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I think that also plays into teaching education wise, because if you teach them something, they're going to know it, hopefully. Of course, in my opinion, there's a lot of excess stuff that we learn in school that we just don't use anymore. So I was trained and I departed from it. So hopefully Courtney can help me understand why some of this other stuff is important. Or I'm just rebellious. I don't know.
Well, first of all, let me say, because I think I have the reputation, I'm not the homeschool guru. Okay.
Come on. I think you are.
Oh, gosh. I get so many phone calls, texts from people all over, and I'm like, I'm not an expert. And I think it's because maybe I have a teaching degree, counseling degree, experience in the public school
qualifications
realm,
that make you an expert.
and then turned homeschool, and I'm like, I have all the answers, you know, so let's just put that out there.
You just have a lot of answers. I mean, you have the credentials to say, I'm a pro.
No, not a pro. I'm still growing and learning with the kids.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, and speaking of kids, we have, what did we say, 12 kids running around here now. So you're probably going to hear kids in the background. Enjoy. Okay? Because we have to take them with us everywhere. So you're going to hear that.
So
and they're homeschooled. So this is part of being homeschooled. Think about this, too. If you ever decide to homeschool your kids, they're going to be with you all the time. If you can't handle that, don't take on the homeschool thing.
It's not easy. It's not easy. That's
no,
for
it's
sure.
not. It's definitely not for everybody. So thank God we've got women that are strong and capable of doing such things, because it is truly a blessing. And like we said, not everybody's cut out for it. But when you find somebody that is, it's awesome that they're willing to sacrifice themselves. I mean, Autumn, she quit going to school to be a nurse so that she could homeschool our kids. And that was a big sacrifice because she's really passionate about that. So you have to be very sacrificial. And so it's awesome. And we appreciate it. I'm sure Brett appreciates the fact that his wife takes the time to do it too, because it's a huge sacrifice, but the benefit, the what you gain is so worth that sacrifice. And it's easy for me to say because I get up in the morning, I go to work, and I don't have to teach my kids. But the fact that my kids are so connected with us, and they're still exposed to worldly things outside of our home when we go out and play. I mean, they're not so sheltered that they don't get the real world experiences, but we get to monitor it a little bit closer, and they get more of our countering the worldly stuff than if they were sitting in school all day. But this isn't a homeschool podcast.
Yeah.
This is educating you, but I had to go there for some reason. So I'm going to let the women that do this go.
I'd argue with you that you don't teach the kids, because you do. And everything that you do, they see you, they watch you,
I'm amazing. Thank you, baby. I'm glad that the world knows.
Lord.
Make sure you stay closer to your microphone, though, babe. That way they can hear
Okay.
your soft voice. So,
Well, I was going to say, kind of piggybacking off of what y'all said, you know, whether people, public school, Christian school, virtual school, homeschool, or whatever, the parents, and unfortunately not every child has a fit parent or grandparent to raise them, and that's just the world we live in. But I think according to scripture and the way the Lord created us and blessed us and gifted us with our kids to nurture and train and educate, you know, no matter if the parent's a full-time working parent outside of the home, it's still up to the parents. It starts in the home. You know, no matter if you're homeschooling or not, it's up to the family, the parents, hopefully, to be the leaders of that and training their kids, educating their kids according to scripture. You know, I think that's what the Lord calls us to do. We may all do it differently. And, you know, some kids are, you know, do have to go to public school, and that's okay. There's not a right or wrong way to do it as long as it's under the leadership of the Lord, and, you know, teaching and training our kids up in Him and discipling them. You know, you mentioned that in the beginning, and discipling them is huge.
Yeah.
It's honestly most important above any of the subjects. And I agree with you on, we can talk about subjects later, but I think that's our primary focus, you know, whether we're gifted and blessed to stay home with our kids, or, you know, you have to work a full-time job.
and really, discipling your kids, sending them out to a public school or even a private school, there's mess in both of those worlds. But it's important for us to disciple our kids. But it's like an emphasis when you send them out, because now you have a lot less time of countering what they're learning, and not just education wise, but just from the other kids. And you know, when you send them to a public school, not everybody's a Christian. Not everybody has a like-minded thought process. So their behaviors, whether it's good or bad, are going to, you know, somewhat affect your kids, and they might pick up on it or they might not. But at-home discipleship really helps create, I want to say, a barrier, I guess, or a buffer maybe for them picking up on that bad stuff. And maybe, hopefully, they will be the light to that situation and instead. So yeah. You're fixing to say something, Brett. Yeah, go for it. You're fixing to say something. Everybody's looking at you like, come on now. You can do it.
Parenting is just so hard. You know, you do the best you can. I asked my mother, because I knew we were going to be talking about this. I asked my mother the other day, is there anything that y'all would have done different with me and my brother in hindsight? And she didn't really have any one thing to share with me. We were raised in church and stuff, and the first one always gets, I'm the oldest, the first one always gets a little more, because you don't have that one-on-one time as much. So my bedtime stories were the Bible stories, and
Oh, cool.
we had a good upbringing, Christian upbringing. Now, I strayed. I don't think my brother strayed as much as I did, but I strayed, but I came back.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that the Bible tells us, that if you if you teach your kids, if you bring them up in the Lord, they'll come back. Now, we see a lot of times where it seems like that, they stay gone,
Yeah.
and that's sad. But at some point, it comes up to the individual. They have a choice to make. Your parents can only be responsible for so much.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of blaming and this in our culture today. It's always somebody else's fault. Nobody takes responsibility. But it's parenting is something that you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do everything perfect.
Yeah.
But it's
a constant learning.
you do the best you can.
Yeah.
And I was reading in Lovell's book before y'all got here, and he was saying that as men, he's talking about men and boys more in this context, but he's saying you have to start with yourself. You have to study the word. You have to work on yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, all these things, because you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of yourself before you can pour into your kids.
Yeah.
But golly, I'm telling you, parenting is just so hard.
Yeah. It is.
And that kind of piggybacks off of our discipline one where I forgot what I was saying now because you just nodded at me.
All I did was look at you. Man, ADHD at its finest.
Well, we have a lot of noise upstairs
Yeah.
that's distracting.
Yeah. I don't remember. Just go ahead about
Well,
that.
like he was saying, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We can't always be blaming our parents. At some point in time, you got to take that responsibility. And for us, once again, you were raised in church. I was raised in church, and I strayed. I don't think I strayed as far as my brother either. I'm a middle child, so we're the most wild ones, I guess. I don't know. Are you middle child? Where are you at?
You strayed
You're the oldest
farther than your brother.
I strayed a lot further.
Yeah, you said it backwards, but that's okay.
I did.
Yes.
Well, this is why I got you here, because you
You're
will
welcome.
always pick out where I mess up.
You are welcome.
But you also tell the world that I'm amazing, so it's cool. But
I remember what I was going to say, though, is like the self-reflection, like it comes back to self-reflection of what you've been through and what things that you need to work on as your own individual person as well, because the things that you've maybe picked up on growing up, you're putting it back into your kids until you realize that self-awareness of, oh, I'm doing it like my dad did it, or I'm doing it like my mom did it, or my aunt, or whoever. And you don't want to repeat that cycle. So it's like that self-reflection of understanding, the things that you do and kind of trying to figure out why you do those things and pray on it and work through and just try to like almost fix yourself a little bit.
you have to. You have to fix
where
yourself.
you're not
with the help of God.
repeating it with your own kids.
Yeah.
So
And then also not taking it the complete opposite. Like some people get really bad discipline, and then when they get older, they take it so far as that they don't want to discipline at all.
yeah,
It's like, well, that ain't going to work either. Now you're going to have, then that kid's going to be like, oh, well, I got to beat the crap out of my kids to get them right. Let's face it. Or there's drug, a lot of times when there's no discipline, the kid gets so far off that they get into the drugs and everything else because they just don't even know what to do anymore. Like discipline is so necessary.
Well, and I think right now we live in an age where it's hands-off parenting. Everybody entertains their kids with a screen. I won't say everybody, but a large
lot of
majority.
people do.
Just entertain them with a tablet. And I get it's easy.
it is.
When you're cooking supper, y'all can watch TV for a few minutes. you
Yeah,
know?
well,
Give me a little
and there's
minute to do
not
this.
anything wrong with that. It's just when your day looks like continually entertaining them with TV or something. Like kids need
Like
to
if
get
they're
outside
using
and burn off energy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of their problems.
And
They got so
explore,
much energy, and so there's
you don't
point
need
in
to
time for that.
babysit your kids.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
And
real
so
problem.
I see that. Yeah, it is a big problem.
Yeah.
so
Anyway, we've been blessed. I guess we get asked a lot and looked at even weird. And I was just thinking on my walk, I told him last week, a lot of people look at us and think we have just lost it. We have fallen off planet Earth here. We're living a totally different lifestyle than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they think we have just lost our crackers. But I told him the deal is we have found them. We are finally following the Lord after many years of off and on. And he and I grew up similarly. I had good parents. My daddy worked hard, multiple jobs, and didn't make a lot of money. My mom worked right beside our house and did hair and didn't make a lot of money, but always had hot meals on the table.
Yeah.
But they, in a way, my daddy was a preacher. So I always grew up in church and going to church every time the doors were open. But they left it up to that. They were pretty much hands-off parents. Yeah, they provided me meals, provided my clothes, took care of me, provided a roof over my head. But I stayed in my room to myself all the time and played.
Oh, wow.
So our biggest thing as far as why we homeschool, or honestly, COVID led us on this path, us stopping in our tracks. And y'all know a whole spiel with the COVID year, but it made us see that we had been living crazy and not even taking care of our own kids. I had been taking care of my students more than my own kids. I had been cheer coach more than teaching and playing, coaching my own kids, and so we realized
you're spending hours and hours a day with these kids.
Hours a day. So I did a little math and actually saw a statistic. So here in Alabama and in most states, they're required to go 180 days. Teachers, we go a little more than that, but kids 180 days. So at the minimum, they're going over 1,200 hours per year. So if they go away from home, pre-K through 12th grade, it's 17,640 hours with other people besides their parents.
Wow.
That's a lot of influence of outside people. Yeah. So our biggest thing is relationship with our kids, discipling our kids, and the time we get together.
Yeah.
And I honestly, yes, I had majority overall a good teaching career, but I kick myself for not seeing it sooner than we did.
Yeah.
We both do. But, that was the Lord's plans. That was his path for us in those seasons. And now we're on a new path and we're thankful. And we too know that it's not feasible for everybody.
It really isn't, especially in this economy. You have to have multiple income.
And I've had families this past year that have had to put their kids back in school so mom can go back to work. And they're heartbroken about it.
Yeah.
And I have been too, but it's just, it's hard times we live in. And, he and I, his brother is still in public education. My sister's in public education. They're great teachers. So no knocks there. But, I lost my train of thought. What we were talking about the other day is that, public school for some kids is their safe place. Every kid does not have a good home. They don't have, they're not, we got some drums beating upstairs.
That's all right.
They're not being discipled at home. The parents are not capable, whether it be to drugs or whatever. And a lot are being raised by aunts and uncles or grandparents, and they just don't have the home.
Yeah, and that's
to do what we do.
It's interesting you brought that up because when COVID came about and all the kids were home, there was a lot of conversation in kids going to school. That might be their only meals.
Yeah.
Kids going to school might be their only safe place.
Yeah.
So homeschool's not one size fits all. Just like the public school or even private school education isn't one size fits all. My biggest thing is the way that those schools teach is a one size fits all kind of curriculum. I mean, they do have special, ESE classes or whatever, like special needs classes for kids that have special needs, and then regular classes, but it's still kind of a one size fits all where, with us having six kids, they all have a little different way of learning that, I guess you could beat it into their head one way or another, but if you can tailor to their needs more, they're going to pick up on it easier, and it's going to be less stressful for them, and you can find a way that makes it more fun. I hated school. I hated everything about being in school except for the girls. That's all I cared. Seriously, that's all I cared about being there for. And it's like, and that's obviously wrong, but for me, I need to be hands-on and doing things. When I can look at something, like, so I remodel houses. So I can look at something and be like, oh, I can do that. And it'll take me a little bit to figure it out, but I can look at it and figure it out. when I have people telling me how to do it, I'm like, I don't know. Just let me see. Just let me see what you got, and I can figure it out. So that's for me. I'm hands on, and
Yeah.
some of our kids are like that, and some of them aren't. But it was interesting you brought up the safe place thing because, once again, now that we're in foster care and we have our first placement, we're learning a lot about these kids may not have safe places to be at home. So for them to go to school is actually a blessing and
Their
possibly
teacher
in a way a
might be-
better influence
Yeah,
to them.
that's true.
Yep.
So this is then where, as Christians, we need to teach our kids in a way that they can be a light to those kids that are hurting and in need. And I don't always know how that works, but once again, if they have to go to school, at least, and I still pick up on what Michael said when we had Michael and Tyler, and how he's like, I'm teaching my kids to be the light. And that's also, if you're going to have to do it,
Yeah.
do your best to disciple your kids and teach them the word of God and how to treat others and be that light.
Yeah.
Because there's some kids, and when I was a kid, I didn't think about what that kid might be struggling. I mean, you don't think about that stuff until you're an adult, but I don't know if there's a way that we can kind of teach our kids to, I don't want to say pick up on it, but just show kindness all the time so that when there is that kid, at least they see something different and that attracts them to them. And hopefully that would,
I think a lot
does
of
that make sense what I'm saying? Or am I just rambling? I don't know. I mean,
You're definitely rambling.
Okay.
I'm trying to say like 5 different things.
sorry, go ahead.
I think that just comes by example too, though. Like you showing that, like stepping out at the park and talking to somebody
Okay,
and
yeah.
showing that love to the people that seem like they're
Yeah, the
probably
people the shady
loners
looking
or
people that you don't usually want to get near, just go talk to them. It'd be cool. It's fine.
the creepy guy.
Follow
on
them to the
phone
van.
behind
No
the
big
tree,
deal.
yeah.
Climb on in. But
Goodness.
I have to be ridiculous sometimes.
All the time.
I know. Hey, I've been away from my family for 2 weeks, 2 solid weeks, and now I get to have fun again and pick on my
Over
wife.
2 weeks.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. But going back to what you said that Michael mentioned in that podcast, that stuck with me too. And that
Yeah.
came on my mind this morning that he and his wife, that's their focus right now, discipling their kids at home to send them out to be disciples to those
Yeah.
that need it. And I think whether we homeschool or where we school, whatever type it is, we all need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Because y'all are probably like us. We see a wide range of kids all the time. And they're not all homeschoolers,
Yeah.
at church, at the park, at birthday parties, so we run into all different types and that's good.
Yeah.
We need to prepare them for all kinds of situations the best we
Yeah.
can. Now we can't obviously troubleshoot everything, but
Yeah.
that stuck with me too.
Yeah, it was good because I'm so like, just get your kids
I
out of school. But
I listened to Mark Driscoll. He did a podcast on homeschooling and education and just kind of like how they do it. But it's so different because in Arizona, it's like such a big area that they live, like a big city. And so they had depending on the different kid, I think they have 5 kids, depending on the different personalities and attitudes of their kids, like if they have more of a follower or a leader. So their oldest, I believe it is, she's just one of those that's will tell you leader 100%, will tell you this and that. Kind of reminds me of Lila a little bit.
yeah.
And I mean, I honestly wouldn't mind, if we had a good private school to put her in, I honestly wouldn't have a problem with Lila doing that. Some of our other kids, and that's kind of what he was talking about, they have a kid that this is more of their personality as a follower. And so they found, a certain private school for him to go to. But I believe she went to a good public school or a charter school or something. And so all their kids did different things. And I think she homeschooled their elementary years at least until it got to where they wanted to go to school and have more friends and all that. But it's cool to know it depends on your area. I mean, we don't have a lot of options here.
Yeah.
And So it's very different. But I thought that was pretty interesting that, they prayed about it. And now their oldest daughter's like in college and she's in a secular college, I think. But they're not worried about her.
Yeah, because
She's just so like, she
That's
knows who
good.
she is.
she's grounded in the Word.
Yeah, and
That's
personality
that's
too,
really where it
so-
starts, is our foundation.
Yeah, so to me, what you just said, the education of the Bible is the most important
Yeah.
to me. I can take a kid that may not know any math, any English, or whatever, and I can teach him how to wire a motor, or, something like that. You can learn skills to make it in this life without having a college
Algebra.
degree or
Yeah.
something like that. You don't necessarily need all that.
Yeah.
But this right here, you need this.
Absolutely.
So I think that would probably be. This is your area. I don't want to take any, but I would think that's probably our number one mission.
Oh, yeah, it has
as
to
far as education is a solid word of God's word.
Yeah.
A solid education of God's word, and we incorporate that. And sadly, you're not supposed to do that in public school anymore.
Which is unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
We wonder why we have the problems that we do.
But in these small little towns and stuff, you do have the ability to push back on that some. And you was talking about my brother, and he is people like that are great to have in the public school. Because they can point them in the right direction, even if they're not legally supposed to.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
In different ways.
Yeah, in different ways.
Well, because, the non-Christians get to indoctrinate the kids however they want. Let's just face it, especially in universities and stuff. I mean, you don't have socialists and communists walking the streets because that are fresh out of universities because they were taught really good. So these teachers have influence, and to have godly teachers is really good. And yeah, you can't preach the Bible there, but I think you can show enough of God's love, I guess, in a way that it causes the kids to think, at least, or notice something different out of it, I guess.
You can bring it across in different ways, even in the literature curriculum. Now you're going to always have evolution in curriculum for public school because they have to supposedly have a neutral
Yeah.
stance, even though it's not neutral.
Yeah.
But so you've got some teachers, especially here in the Bible Belt, that will just completely skip over it and say, "I'm not teaching evolution in my class."
And they
And
allowed to
you've
do
got
that?
some,
Yeah.
well, here.
Wow.
Here,
Okay.
I'm saying here in the
There's-
South,
yeah.
you can get by with it, but now in your big cities and outside of the Bible Belt, you're going to have some that are too scared to do that or that believe that way, and so they're going to address that in their class. And so, I mean, every area is different,
Yeah.
but there's going to be Christians and non-Christians in any school setting and
Yeah.
in any job force our kids encounter one day, so whether they're going to be presented with those things in a lot of different avenues,
Yeah.
whether it be through technology or even at church or co-op, they may
Or a
encounter
private Christian
kids.
school.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
even though Christian schools are founded on the fundamentals of the Bible, due to recruiting and all the changes, they're not, your Christian schools so much anymore. Unfortunately, it's a lot of mix from all different areas.
Yeah.
So,
That was the one thing that when we sent Lila to Calvary
Yeah.
in Sarasota,
Yeah.
like we got interviewed by the pastor. Or was he the pastor?
He was the principal of the
Principal.
school.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
because
like
we used the church, but it wasn't like affiliated with the church.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So, yeah, the principal, he interviewed us and was like asking us about our prayer life and our walk with God and things like that. So it was like they were kind of weeding out that non-Christian
Yeah.
stuff to try to keep a control over it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
That's what
cool.
you
But
do.
Yeah, I do
yeah,
that
Yeah.
she does that too.
Unfortunately, and it's
But-
hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy to
Well,
do.
yeah,
but
But we also did went to a bigger Christian school, and they didn't do that, and you could tell that
yeah,
they didn't
tell
do
the
it.
difference.
yeah, they were just looking
Yeah.
for the money,
Yeah, it's very expensive to go there. Yeah.
like always. Everything is now.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned subjects lately. I mean, earlier lately. I'm getting tongue-tied.
Lately, earlier, whatever.
I'm distracted. You know, my ADD,
I know.
ADHD. We've got kids making lunch, kids playing instruments,
That's
so I'm
awesome.
distracted. I'm
This
sorry.
is perfect. This is
It's education, right? But anyway, you mentioned like different subjects and stuff earlier, and I ran across this that said the power of success in your homeschool does not rely on books, but on relationships. So, so we keep referencing COVID, but I feel like COVID sparked a lot of change.
It really did.
And within the church, within the school setting, there's just still a lot of change happening due to 2020. So, I hear a lot of people say, COVID schooling, I couldn't homeschool because of what we did during COVID times. And that's not homeschooling. That's not true education. Picking up packets to have your kids do at home
Yeah,
or
do the
virtual
online.
schooling
Yeah.
at home. That's not homeschooling. To me, true homeschooling. Now, everybody does it different. There's no right or wrong way, like I said, but true homeschooling, I'm sitting alongside my kids, learning with them. And I tell everybody this, and this is not boastful, but in all my degrees, I've learned more homeschooling the kids than I have with anything I ever had in college. And I have masters in areas.
Wow.
And I don't mean that boastful, but it's just that's how much I've learned at home with the kids and that's also how many gaps I have in my education throughout all the years that I've had.
Yeah.
So we're learning alongside our kids, and I cherish the time I have with the kids. Like I said, it's hard. It's hard.
It's
We
hard
don't
to
have breaks.
cherish sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard. I was telling another mom the other day because it's her first year and she's wanting to pull her hair out and not know if she can do it.
Yeah.
The first year is the hardest.
That was me the first two, probably.
Yeah. And listen, I told her this is our 5th year and I still have days where I'll be like, I don't know if I can do this. It's hard. I need a 5-10 minute break outside or in the bathroom with the door
Yes.
closed.
Yeah.
It's hard. So I tell everybody that, I work harder now full time at home than I did in my full time job teaching other people's
Wow.
kids. But there's so many benefits. The benefits outweigh the hard.
Yeah.
And Brett, I know y'all, he says that he's hands off, but like, what a few weeks ago, he brought a poisonous snake up here and we had snake education outside on a whim because he killed one
Nice.
behind the farm.
Did you eat it?
No.
No, it's
come
water
on.
mox.
Gross.
Water mox is nasty. You don't want to eat a water mox.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, you need a rattlesnake.
I've eaten corn snake.
I'm
never
not
had
eating any kind of
rattlesnake.
snake.
Rattlesnakes.
Well,
It's okay.
if we're starving,
probably
we will
would.
eat snake.
It's not too bad.
But you dads, even, y'all may not see yourselves as primary educator, but y'all are the leaders of our home. And y'all are leading and guiding our families and us as wives as we educate and train up our kids. Y'all are the primary leaders. So under the
remember
Lord,
that, Autumn.
it may, well,
I
me and her
complimented you
feel like
earlier on it, but
we're busting tail 24/7, either keeping the house in check, meals on the table, tending to all the little issues, plus educating our kids. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work. But it's worth it. We're the main influences on our kids. And we can kind of go there in a little bit.
Talking about what you were saying about y'all being the primary or whatever, we've got one that just, when he goes to work with me, it just fills his love tank.
Yeah.
And that's education.
Absolutely.
Now I know not everybody can do that. They work at a plant or at an office or whatever. But we're blessed enough that I can carry him to work with me, and he can see what I do every day and see how to do different things. Just daily tasks all the way up to how to wire a 220, circuit or whatever.
Yeah.
And that too is education.
Yeah.
We've kind of
sometimes
lumped
than-
education to the classroom.
Yeah.
But it's not really that. We're supposed to be learning all the time.
It's a
I'm
lot broader.
still continuing my education every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with them. We learn different things. We learn what snakes to handle. Don't ever handle snakes, kids, but we learn
Tell
what
that to
snakes
Gemma.
are dangerous. We learn what snakes are dangerous, what
Yeah.
snakes are not, and how to tell the difference.
Yeah. Like real life application, not
Yeah.
how do you add letters to numbers and that makes sense to somebody.
Well, we might need that at some
No.
point. But
I mean, I remodel houses and I never once said, well, if I just put this letter next to this number, it will magically make sense on how to figure this out.
Yeah.
Never once.
I know. I do battle that sometimes, Jared, because I told him sometimes I have the realization that all these things we're covering and discussing, we don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
I hate to just say that or tell the kids
Well,
that.
it's true.
Now, we can
I've
learn
told the kids that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a waste of my time and your
It
time.
is.
the math you're talking
I'm at
about
that
right now,
point.
we're doing in our homeschool
Are you?
right now.
Oh,
But anyway, even though like right now we're studying ancient history, but we can learn a lot from them because like right now they had a lot of false gods they worshiped.
yeah.
And so I turn that into Bible,
Well, and look at the false gods that are worshipped today.
Yeah. So
Music industry is a prime example.
yeah.
And
So
movie
we can
industry.
take a lot from the subjects
Yeah.
and turn it for good,
Sure.
use it for good to educate them. And yeah, the truth of the matter is, depending on who knows what they're all going to do later in life, are they going to use every bit of that? No,
Probably
they're not. I have a lot of things. Gosh, I prepared for pharmacy school. That was my path to make the big bucks, So I took all the biologies, anatomies, physics, everything in college. Then started working at one and decided I didn't want to count pills every day, all day, the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I realized that teaching had been all I'd ever wanted to do. But my parents, because we grew up kind of poor, they encouraged me to make more money and not do education. So I took a career path, a change, and have all of those sciences under my belt that no, they're just sitting there on my transcript. I don't need it. A lot of wasted scholarship money.
Man.
So yeah, there are things like that no, we won't need, but we can use a lot of things for teachable moments too.
Yeah. Well, in history, I mean, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
That's not just said just to say something. Like that's true. History does repeat
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
look at the Israelites.
inspiring, too.
They
I'm a
continually went through waves.
I'm a big history guy, but
Yeah.
it's very inspiring a lot of times, and to see what caliber of men have come before you. And it's man's podcast,
Yeah.
but that's it gives you a mark of something to shoot for.
Yeah.
Me and my brother both are big history guys.
Well, and you know what's really neat if you do a lot of history study? Our founding fathers were homeschooled.
Yeah.
And our country was founded on biblical principles. Now, we're not going to get into politics on this one, but
Oh, we can.
anyway, if you look, it's so interesting to look back at our foundations of our country. And right now we're studying ancient history and interweave the Bible. Like me and the kids were discussing the Tower of Babel last week. We've all heard the story about the Tower of Babel and all that, but we were looking at the geography of it, the location of it, and it interweaves with our ancient history in Babylon and the Persian Gulf and the Persian Empire. And we are interweaving history and Bible right now. And it is the coolest
cool,
thing. And I'm
yeah.
nerdy like that. So that's why I tell everybody, we parents are redeeming our own education. I'm learning things through scripture and through all of these subjects that I missed out on.
Yeah.
With either because I wasn't shown or given the information or because I was doodling on paper and didn't get it in school.
Yeah.
We're redeeming our own education at home with our kids, and I love that.
Well, and Autumn's even said that she's kind of learned, was it new things or just kind of like,
Well,
I guess through
like,
teaching
there's
our
a
kids, you're
lot of-
kind of like rekindling the stuff that you've forgotten and And
Yeah,
also
I mean,
learning
I
some
feel
new
like there's a
stuff.
lot that I didn't learn. Like it was very much like read this, fill in the blank on this, and then you're gonna have a test at the end of the week, and it's gonna look exactly like the sheet basically, and then you just have to memorize everything.
And you never
then
look at
goes
it
out.
again.
The
Yeah.
education
And like, I
system.
mean, you'd read the textbook and it'd be like 600 BC or just whatever. And it's cool with learning with the kids with the textbooks and stuff that we use that I can kind of connect the dots more of like the real like timeline of when it happened and oh, this and this were actually like simultaneously happening like at the same time, just that was over
know.
here and this was
That's
here.
neat.
And you don't realize that when you go, at least with my public school education, I didn't realize all of that. And also like just the living story, like the books that I choose are mostly like living story form. So it's like really interesting and it's like a storybook form basically where you're learning all the information, but it's like more interesting, I guess. Instead of just like, you
Not so
know,
black
a
and
very
white.
monotone,
Yeah.
like blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, it's more interesting.
Yeah. It
And I
definitely
enjoy
is.
it with the kids. So it's great.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. And you mentioned earlier, and I have some homeschool parents that have some kids in public school and have some homeschooled for
Okay.
various reasons, either behavioral or learning issues or whatever.
Sure.
They've chosen to do different things, and whatever works for any family is
Yeah.
it's fine. But what I'm hearing from them is, you know, it's just the nature of the beast in a public school setting where you got 30 kids in a classroom that are all on different levels. You cannot meet the needs of every kid, you know, and every learning style. You know, like Brett mentioned, Dax loves to go work at the farm, and he's probably going to do that one day. He wants to do everything Daddy does is awesome. And he does not like reading and math, but he's learning that too.
Yeah.
But we can tailor, he can go work with Brad and then come in and do his schoolwork, you know, so we can tailor that. But I've had moms lately say their kids are struggling in public school, shedding tears because they're just getting left behind. If they don't know it and get it, then too bad. You know, we're in a time crunch. We have only 180 days to get all these skills in. And we can tailor that at home. You know, we can take our time. There is no pressure on us. You know, my boys are finally catching on to reading. And we've shed a lot of tears and even pitched some fits the past few years. But they were not developmentally ready.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I did push them when they weren't ready. And so we are able to take our time with them and work with them one-on-one and do it differently. Videos, sign language, go do it outside. We school on the porch, trampoline, you know, upstairs, wherever. And it's a blessing that we can do that.
Yeah, that's
we can
awesome.
tailor it for our family. And some parents take it on the road and road school. You know, you can do it however fits the needs of your family. And so,
Well, too, having boys, that's cool. It's something we don't get to enjoy.
No, but
we have a
some
little
really
foster
hard
boy.
girls, though.
We do have some tough girls.
and you're
but
getting to dabble in
No,
the
I
boy
see.
world right now.
Right now,
with your
yeah.
foster child.
I said hands-on girls.
hands-on
Like,
girls.
they learn
Yeah. Lila,
dating
our oldest, she likes to go to work with me. Actually, Lila and Adeline, all the
likes
kids
the
like to
quality
go.
time, though.
Yeah, all the kids like to go to work with me, but I can't always bring them. But Lila, she helped me. I had to remodel a bathroom and replace all the floor joists and everything, and she was in there helping me and cutting. I taught her how to run a saw and measure stuff, and so she's learning math through measurements. She's learning practical skills like using a saw, and it's cool. I mean, going back to, you know, having your kids come to work with you, one thing that I've heard a lot of is the trades is dying. People in the trades world is dying. Everything's going to technology. Go to school, spend your life's fortune going to school so that you can maybe use your degree or maybe not.
But here's the thing with that is they can't die because you have to have that.
You have to have somebody doing it.
There are some things that you have to have. You know, you don't have to have an Apple iPhone. Regardless of how you feel, you don't have to have it.
That's true.
You have to have food, shelter, clean water. You know, and to do that comes with a whole bunch of other jobs. To mass produce food, you have to have a tractor. You have to have, all this equipment, which means you have to have mechanics, you have to
Yeah.
have electricians, you have to have, these things, they can't die, because if they do, we're all going to die.
Look,
Yeah.
Elon Musk has come to save the world. He's got AI and robots. All right, we're fine. Now we can just be useless. Okay, I'm kidding.
But that's one thing that I feel like there's a big shift. We're on the edge of it if we're not already starting to go on the other side. Is it's become more profitable to go get you a skill than it has to go get you a degree.
That's right.
Yeah,
People
Yeah.
can't afford, that right now we're in a season of college has gotten so expensive that the job, people are not able to pay back their student loans or pay for their college degrees, even after getting their medical degree. It's ridiculous the kind
Wow.
of shape we're in right now. And I agree, there's a major need in those skills, right now, I was just telling our older girls are in there feeding all 12 kids, including
I was
themselves.
going to bring that up.
And
too.
they're in there making pizzas, sandwiches, chicken fries right now, taking care of all the kids, which is great, needed life skills to have while we're in here doing this podcast.
Yeah. Well, and that's useful skills that they're going to use when they become adults,
Yeah.
and it's self-sacrifice, and it's caring for others' needs. Like that's
All right, I was trying to pull this up on my phone. So our Marion County career coach shared this the other day, and it says, what does the next 10 years look like for the job market? The number one area is healthcare and nurses, doctors, because there's just a need in that right now. People are not going to college right now because they can't afford it. And the number two area is trades. A big need in electricians, HVAC, equipment, welding. And then number three is technology.
yeah.
Robotic technicians, AI specialists, computer programmers. So those are the three biggest needs according to their data over the next 10 years. Healthcare, what you're talking about, running equipment, just
And so
basic needs.
There's something else here too, like the technology field. I don't know what it takes to get a job in that, but I guarantee you, if they require you to have a degree in whatever field that is, I guarantee you that you can get good enough at that job without having the degree. If you get good enough, they will hire you.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. And
Well, look at
that's-
computer
that's something,
hackers. A
you
lot of
know,
them get into the government positions. They probably don't have education in that, except for they've been sitting in a
been
basement
doing
being
it.
creepy and
Yeah. How do you learn how to
learn
do
how to hack them. I don't know.
No, I mean, how do you learn how to do anything?
Just by doing it.
You go do it.
Start doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of this college stuff you don't need it.
Yeah.
At least
It's-
90% of it. And there are exceptions. But for the most part, go learn how to do the job you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people come to me because I have all these education degrees, but I tell every single person that literally my degrees, my college time taught me nothing. A lot of it was busy. I mean, the most of it, 99% busy work, turning in projects, taking tests. I literally did not know how to do anything in the classroom until I started student teaching and got my first job. And so I have a lot of people say, well, I can't homeschool my kids. I don't know how you do that because I don't have a teaching degree. And I have to tell everybody, you don't need one.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I could wipe all that out of my memory. Like, I feel like we've been brainwashed in the college realm and in the
Amen.
public education realm. And it's something that unless you get out of it, you don't see, you don't realize. Because I always, looked at homeschoolers, we both did, as weirdos,
Yeah, that's what I was
like
saying.
that was, people were crazy. They were either unschooled and had no education or extremely weird until we got on this
Social
path.
issue,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I was going to address the social issues until we got on this path. And I have a lot of people say, how do you get your kids to listen to you? Like, I can't even help mine with their homework. I don't have the patience.
That starts with discipline.
Yeah, it goes back to discipline, training them and getting them into routine. And then you learn as you go. You know, I've said this is hard. And it doesn't, you don't need a degree to do it. You don't need a degree to teach your kids. It just takes trial and error, a lot of trial and error, a lot of hard work, a lot of prayer, a lot of time put into it, and you learn as you do it.
There you go.
It's
Yeah.
back to anything else, learning as you do it.
Yeah, that's something that has just proved itself true to me time and again. You know, when we got into long range shooting years ago, you know how we started? Me and 3 of my buddies went out there with our hunting rifles and tried to make a 300 yards.
Okay.
That's how we started.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you can find information. Hell, YouTube. I mean, I swear, I think you can about do open heart surgery.
Yeah, probably.
And we just learned as we went, but we learned because we went out there and tried to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, for young people, that is something that they need to focus on. If you want to be a code writer, I don't even know what that is, but go try to do it. Find somebody who knows how to do it. Ask them. You know, you can do a lot more without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to college.
Yeah. I mean, with the internet, you can, even outside of YouTube, you can look up pretty much anything and learn if you really want to. A lot of people just don't want to. They want to be lazy.
Yes.
Pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like my brother-in-law. He's like, you know, I was down there. I had to remodel the bathroom, paint the outside of the house, help my dad paint the outside, help my dad paint the inside. And then I did all the remodel work inside the bathroom. And he's like, man, I couldn't do that. That's why I pay people to do it. It's like, well, you better have a lot of money. If you can't do it and you don't want to learn to, you better have a lot of money to pay somebody that knows how to do it to get it done. And he's like, hey, I'll just go sell some more houses. I said, that's it. And they're talking about needing water pipes redone. So I just keep saying, well, you better sell some houses. You can pay for it. That's what my sister says. Hey, you ain't going to do it. You're going to figure out a way to make it happen. So,
and that's one thing I want to instill in my kids is I want to instill, which Courtney's, this would be more her area, but a love of learning. Mm-hmm. You love to learn, you know, new things, and a love of reading. Mm-hmm. If you can read, if you love to read, you can learn an amazing amount, which I didn't start doing until a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And a can-do attitude.
Yeah.
You know, like you can do anything. If you set your mind to it and you have a no quit attitude, I'm going to learn how to do this, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so off of that, how do you instill a love of education? How do you instill a love of learning? And I mean, I get kind of how to, but I want to hear you guys' 2 cents on it. Like,
I'd like to hear Autumn's input too.
Yeah, Autumn is off helping kids.
You know, that's something that's a big focus of mine. Besides, you know, discipleship, that's my number one. We disciple all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know, we start our time together in the Lord's Word, and we try to end it every night in the Lord's Word as a family. Love of learning. So I told you already, I'm easily distracted, as you can tell. So none of our days look the same. And I do that on purpose for myself and the kids. And I also, everybody asks all the time, what curriculum do you use? What do you suggest? Well, I use a million different things. So I cannot say. Brett can tell you our bookshelves are full.
Oh, it's awful.
And he says all the time, I've spent way too much money and there's no way I can use it all. But I do dabble in the large majority of it. I do not just use one math curriculum or one language arts or whatever. I use a lot of different things. So that's one thing I do is try to keep it interesting, change it up if it's not working. And then, like I said, we're going to do school on the porch today. It's nice out. We're throwing blankets out there on the porch and we're schooling outside. Or they love, I very rarely, let them use a reading app, but sometimes the boys will love to do hands-on things, whether it be with manipulatives or whatever. Games, we've been playing a lot of games lately. And then videos, I try to tie in YouTube fun videos to go with whatever we're learning. So just change it up and do a lot of different things.
So it's interesting. So I'm kind of, and I know you made a comment towards it and it sounded negative connotation, and I won't hold it against you, but I'm kind of for the unschooling in some ways, in the sense that everything is in my opinion, everything can be a teachable moment.
Yeah.
So when they're out doing things, unschooling probably has a bad rap because some people probably take it and just don't teach at all.
Well, that's what I was going to
But
say.
unschooling is, instead of having a specific curriculum that you have to go by, blah, 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 you're taking life experiences, things that the kids are interested in or doing or whatever, and finding a way to make it teachable.
Yeah.
And allowing
I
them to
love
learn
that
that
too.
way. So,
plus-
but it's cool too. So creating an environment that is more comfortable too.
Yeah.
Like you take them outside on a beautiful day, the kids to be able to be outside and kind of get the air breeze and all that might settle them down and open their mind up in a way to want to sit there and listen to you because it's comfortable. It's something different. So creating different atmospheres that kind of tend to their
Yeah.
likes, I guess you would say, or whatever.
Yeah, and by unschooling earlier, there's a lot of different definitions. I mean, we know people that said they were homeschooled and can't read. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that would be
heard
more
that from other people,
non-schooling,
too.
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
school at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
That's just no schooling.
Yeah, that's
okay. So
no
let's
schooling.
not knock on schooling. Okay.
but yeah, you're right. And I don't classify myself as a certain kind. You know, Autumn mentioned Montessori earlier. We have a classical co-op. I consider myself what's called eclectic, which means I do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. Unschooling would fall into that. Jared's looking like, what is this?
Just speak English to me. That's all I want. Just
It's
speak
English.
English. Montessori,
That's what I'm
eclectic. I mean, I'm
Google
hearing
it
like
when
this
we're done.
monastery sounding thing, like you're going to church school, and
Yeah.
It's
eclectic
just the
sounds
last
like the.
Yeah, it's just fancy
I don't-
words.
It's the last
You know.
name of the lady that
Just
came
speak
up with
English to me.
that
I'm not that
sound.
smart.
So, as far as what you're talking about, like Dax has had a love of dinosaurs the past couple years. So, I've done a lot of unit studies, games. I have a ton of books we've read on dinosaurs. Is that in the course of study? No, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, what can you learn though? I mean, you can teach them how to read,
Yeah.
write, count, everything that really is usable
That's right. We could do it through dinosaurs.
through dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So it's not, let's go to school and you just have to be like, that's what he likes. Maybe Alexa probably isn't as
She loves
excited.
art.
So how
I
do you
try
teach
to do
and
that
write?
in a lot of
And you can
different
do-
subjects, you know?
That's what I like about
Creative.
homeschooling is you can just meet each kid's needs and make it fun. I think for
Yeah.
me, education needs to be fun. I dropped out of school when I was 16 because I was raising Cain. Let's just face it. And my mom's like, you might as well just quit. And I said, it's about time you catch on. And I quit. And then I went to work because that's just what I wanted to do. But later on, as I got older, I wanted to become a licensed contractor. And so I'm like, well, to do that, I have to get my high school diploma. So I went back and did that at age 27. I got my diploma. I didn't end up becoming a licensed contractor, but then throughout the years, I really got a passion for guns. And I'm like, I want to learn how to work on guns. Well, now I have an associate's degree in a field that I want. And so as an adult, I think that university stuff is like to push your kids to want to go to school. And then now this is your next step you have to do. And you have to decide right now what you want to do. Well, I was 30 years old before I decided I wanted to be a gunsmith. So
That's another problem is we're taking, and this is not anything to do with education, I don't guess, but you're asking a 18-year-old kid, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
yeah,
Me and my brothers talked about
Yeah.
this. That's not a fair question.
because they haven't lived a life.
Yeah.
They've lived a life of going to school, but
In
they
their
haven't.
parents' house under their roof.
Yeah,
you know, so
they haven't
don't
even
know
had a
what to do.
chance to. I mean, I never wanted to be a
Well,
home
plus-
repair guy. I wanted to do car audio when I was younger. That was my dream, was to install stereos and TVs and customize vehicles. And then as I got older, I wanted to restore cars. I don't do that. I fix houses and work. And I was working on guns for a while, and I hope to get back into that. But so yeah, at 16 to 18, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, and I don't really care to do the car audio stuff, but you know, you don't really know what you want. You're still a kid.
You
Yeah.
know.
Go ahead, babe. You're trying to talk and I'm
Yeah, I
rambling.
think one of the biggest issues too with that is with education, with school anyway, for me, was just like not having that love to learn because I was like, oh, it's just something to do. It's just something I have to get done so that I can graduate, so that I can go get a job or college or whatever. It's just something I had to get done, but it wasn't something that I loved doing or I loved to go to learn but once I needed to learn the things that I needed to learn and pass a certain test so that I could get my prereqs done for nursing, I did it. And I was like 28 or 29 or something.
Yeah.
But that's because I wanted to do it.
Yeah, you're
And
old enough
so-
to make a decision of now
but
I've
if
lived a
I
little bit
had,
of a life.
But if I had grown learning to love what I love learning, that's really like what I'm trying to do with our kids is like want them to want to learn.
Yeah,
we just talked about that while you were
that
away.
while you
So
were-
if you've got
Okay.
anything to add, I
Oh.
kind of touched on kind of some things
walked
that I
off.
do in our home to instill the love of learning. So you may have some
Yeah.
other things to share.
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
Here it goes.
I don't know if I could add or not, but
Well, she just wants to know, like, what
How do
when
you
you
do that in your
find when
house?
you find you're struggling to get the kids' attention, or because they get up and they don't want to just
well,
jump
I
right
had
into.
a revelation.
Here it goes.
And Jared's heard me talk and talk and talk about it. But basically, I firmly believe that it does not take 12 years to educate your child. I think that has become a thing with the public education because how long until you're an adult and you don't need someone home to stay with you at home? And, you have parents, both parents work nowadays. So if I'm 16 and I want to go and, I lost my spot now. Hold on. Like if both parents are working and you need to have a babysitter until they're able to be home on their own and take care of themselves and all that stuff. So I think that's how that became a thing. Like that's why it's 12 years. That's why it's,
It's like a full-time babysitter until they become
and
adults.
I mean, it's crazy because with my kids, like in each level that they learn, like, I have one daughter doing this math level and this daughter doing this math level, and they learn the same thing. Mm-hmm. They learn the exact same thing in each book. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit more in depth.
That's right.
And so it's really like, why do I push for my kindergartner to learn X, Y, and Z when they're going to learn it in 4 years and it's just a little bit more, it's not that much more complicated. It's just a little bit more. But it's like,
they're more mature
It's
and
just-
able to learn
Yeah.
quicker and easier.
yeah, like
And
you said
without-
with your twins earlier, it's the same with my twins. I mean, they took longer to learn to read, but I don't stress about it
Yeah,
anymore.
that's okay.
Like,
Yeah,
it's,
my 7-year-olds don't need to learn how to write an essay at 7
Yeah.
years old.
That's right.
And be able to read the most in-depth book. Like,
Right.
let them be kids for a while and have
Yeah.
fun.
yeah, and even like my oldest, sometimes I get hard on her because I'm like, you're the oldest, and like you're 12, and I'm like thinking about when I was 12. Like I did not care about all this stuff that I had to do, but
No.
I want them to more love to learn the things rather than you need to get this done, because that's what the book says you have to get done.
Yeah.
So just kind of taking a step back every once in a while, praying over everything, looking at what the big picture is that I envision. Like, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? Because sometimes you just get so like hyper focused on, we got to get 10 more lessons done to finish the year or finish this book or whatever. And that's not what it's about, though. It's, I mean, I skip lessons now sometimes. I'm like, I'm like, this is how I find this out as an adult because I do not care if you learn it. Hey, Siri. Oh, don't talk to me. But, hey, Siri, how do you convert this measurement to this measurement or metric to, it's really just, I'm trying to focus more on what we need to learn than what you have to learn because the book says it.
Yeah.
And it gives me a piece because I have 6 that I have to teach all different things to. And we do a lot all together. We do, history together and fun science and stuff like that together. So that's helpful. But as far as like math and LA all being different, I'm kind of trying to choose what I want them to learn, choose what I don't. And that's the fun in being the parent and deciding for what you want them, what you think matters. Because at the end of the day, I mean, Siri can answer a lot of questions.
That's true.
I've replaced intelligence with Siri, okay? Artificial. But yeah, and once again, there's so much you get taught in schools that you don't necessarily use. Like, I don't write essays. I don't write book reports. I
think it's a useful tool.
I don't use.
Depending on what you're going to do.
I probably use algebra with my work, but in my own way. That doesn't involve sitting down with a piece of paper and putting letters with numbers because it doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe some people, it's like that's the best way to do it. So that's great. Like, but once again, we can cater to the needs and what the interests of our kids, and that keeps them engaged better than forcing it down their throat and then getting mad because they're not learning, and then they're frustrated, and then they shut down, and it just becomes a big fiasco.
And that's when I say, okay, we're done for the day. We're closing the books.
Yeah.
We'll pick up tomorrow.
Yeah. Get them in a better frame of mind the next day and
Yeah.
just let them have fun. I mean, once again, they're kids. I mean,
Well, and we take a lot of play breaks. I was going to say
Yeah.
that too. You know, little kids, especially little boys, they're not meant to sit in a desk for very long. Like their attention spans, we're doing well for 15, 20 minutes at the time
Yeah.
in blocks. So we'll do that, chunks, maybe 30 minutes. Okay, play break. I'll call you back in 15 minutes or whatever. So we do a lot of play breaks throughout the day.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
They got a lot of energy to burn. So they need to be out running. Just like with little man that we got now, it's like he just has a different level of energy.
It's so different.
That's our first boy experience. Well, we had a temporary placement, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
he's
so
our-
different.
so we get to delve into the raising of a boy for a little while at least until he can go back home with his parents.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you got anything else to add to
I
this?
wanted Autumn to share the verse that she had mentioned early on. I don't know if
yeah.
you shared that.
Yes.
Because I think, honestly, out of all scripture, that's one of the most important in dealing with teaching and training our kids.
So it's Deuteronomy 6:4-7 is what I highlighted. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. I actually read all the way to verse 9. I was just kidding. But yeah, I think that kind of sums up.
It does. And in
it.
all, mine has a little side note, yours may too, with those scripture. And it just reemphasizes that the parents are responsible.
Yeah.
In whatever avenue. It says parents are responsible for the spiritual training of their children, which involves verbal instruction and modeling, which y'all mentioned early on. So in whatever avenue, even if you're working full-time parents outside the home, it's up to us still to be the primary influence, educators, trainers of our kids. The Lord's entrusted us to do that, and it's a big task.
Yeah.
I heard a mom, you going back to what Michael said on the other podcast, I heard another mom. There was this big debate. I think it was on YouTube with a homeschooling famous mom author to a public school mom. And so they both had great arguments. It went like an hour and a half. But the one mom who works full time outside of the home, she came across as, and I had never really thought about this, but her big thing was discipling her kids and sending them off to public school. But she said every day when they come home from school, they get questioned. They want to know what all they encountered during the day, what all opposed scripture and their biblical faiths and foundations, and how did they stand up for it.
Wow.
And that kind of pushed me to make sure, because, Brett mentioned some of our kids earlier, and I don't want to say too loud because the kids are in here, but some of our kids are followers, and I was a follower too. So I told him not long ago, I feel like, and my daddy was a preacher and they were wonderful parents in ways, but they did not disciple me at home nor train me to go out into the world in preparation. You know, I was left up to whatever VBS or whatever I got at church, and to do my own study at home. And I told him if my parents had really gone all in like we are and homeschooled me because I was the follower. You know, I was the little chicken, scaredy cat rule follower until the teenage years, till about 15. And then I fell into the peer pressures of my friends, you know, and so we can't, obviously, as parents, like I said, troubleshoot and prepare our kids for every little thing. But like you said earlier, we can model for them. We can shelter them in ways, kind of protect them in ways. And it's our goal to prepare them the best we can in God's word and those foundations so that when they are old enough to have a cell phone, or when they are old enough to have keys in their hand to drive away from our house, which I'll be a nervous wreck.
Yeah, that's gonna be
But
tough.
that they will be as mentally and physically prepared as can be.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, and it's really an impossible task.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, as far as that's going to fall a lot on me and you.
Yeah.
That we give them the strength to be able to stand up against that, you know, and not be afraid to be weird, not be
Yeah.
afraid to be the only one that doesn't do something or that does do something, you know. That's not easy especially in teenage years. I'm probably not near as much a natural follower as Courtney is, but when you got everybody around you, it's hard to separate yourself at that age
Yeah.
and say, no, I'm not doing that, or I'm taking a stand against this or that or whatever. It's tough to go against the current,
Yeah.
you know. And I would love it if I can instill enough strength in my kids that they can go against the current.
Yeah.
yeah, because for years there, I was known as the weird preacher's kid that, you know, I mean, she's not going to the party, you know, and I would be laughed at the lunch table. You know, don't even tell her because she's not going to be there. You know, she's not. But I turned into the one that was there, picked up by my friends, dated the wrong guys, dabbled in alcohol, you know, did things that I had no business doing that my parents still don't know about. Well,
Hopefully they
my
don't
mom
listen
and
to that.
daddy's in heaven, and hopefully my mom won't listen to this. But, and it's just the nature of the beast and the world we live in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we all, even as adults, we struggle, you know. And gosh, technology, I can get on a whole thing with social media
Yeah.
and the pressures that even moms, I see a lot, and you may fall into this too. I've had to unfollow and unfriend and just not look at a lot of things that are not bad, but they may make me question or doubt what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, we can fall into the comparison trap of, oh my gosh, they're involved in all these activities. My kid, are we missing out because we're not on all these teams or running ragged every day to all these events? You know, we can fall into that trap. So I think it's a lot of discernment on our part, a lot of prayer. And like I said, I've just had to turn off all notifications, all sounds on my phone because it was about to drive me insane.
Yeah.
And quit looking at others and falling in. That's just the devil manipulating our minds to think we're missing out.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, our life is full and blessed with what we're doing, and we don't need anything else on our plates. You know, we're busy
Yeah.
enough as it is.
And this is interesting. There's 2 points that you were talking and I thought of, and one was when you shelter your kids so much, at some point they start to rebel because they want to, you know what I mean? Like they want to, like when you make. I'm trying to think of how to say it properly. When you make something so taboo, they want to kind of see what's going on now. All of a sudden, oh, maybe I need to check this out, you know? And
Okay,
shoot.
so
Man, you don't want that.
what you're talking about, this relates directly to gun safety for me. All right. So instead of saying you cannot touch this, you know, do not touch this or whatever, you say you can touch this anytime you want to, but you have to ask. I have to be here.
Absolutely.
You know, and then I'll make sure it's safe. I'll make sure it's unloaded. We go through it, how to handle it, all this kind of thing. You know, you don't forbid something. You tell them, you know, why.
Yeah.
And you say, you know, if you look, well, we'll use alcohol. You know, that's something that they're all going to get faced with eventually.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll tell them, I'll be up front. I'll tell them why people do it. You know, this is why they do it. This is why you're better off if you don't do it. You know, you can lead to addiction. At the end of the day, you know, I'm not so hard up on alcohol as much as like I was raised to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, what good comes from it? You know, me and Tyler's talked about that. We've got some addiction in our past family, way back to alcohol, and really, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, for us.
Well, and so that's the thing too with that is if you know you have issues with addiction and stuff, you need to be wise enough to stay away from certain things.
Yeah, and we go ahead and tell our kids this is why people do it.
Yeah,
and you know, we can be upfront and honest about these things instead of just saying don't do this because I said don't do it.
Yeah,
you know.
Because now they're curious. Now, well, maybe I need to see what's going on.
Then all their friends are doing it, and they seem to be having a good time or whatever. I might try some of that, and they probably will. What I guess I don't know, but you know, you just be upfront about it. Don't hide stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
So overly sheltering.
Yeah. So I don't mean because I was an overly sheltered kid. Like my parents never talked to me about anything. It was just don't do it. You know, we wouldn't have the birds and the bees talk because it was just a big no-no in our house. And then alcohol, you know, you just didn't talk or do anything in my house. That's how I was raised. So I guess I did end up rebelling later on. And, you know, there's just going to go into what you said. There's just the temptation there of, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. So
So now I want to go do it.
Oh, for me, my personality, that's just... You'd be better off telling me to go do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not, you don't want me to do it? Well, now because you said, we got that little bit of rebellious attitude.
I got to go see why.
Yeah.
So, we can monitor our kids a little more closely since they're home with us. We have not crossed the bridge of phones, and they are well aware as to why. You know, we are not putting a phone in their hand right now, and they know a lot of the reasons why. So we do not shelter the kids from all the dark and evil in the world because they're going to be faced with it. So that's one of the things. It's our job to train them up in and to be prepared. Hey, you're going to run across this. You're going to run across these kind of people. You're going to be faced with these kind of temptations and how to handle it, hopefully.
Yeah. In fact, I wonder sometimes, or, you know, I've had conversations with people close to me. Are we not sheltering enough? Are we, you know, like violence, for example? I don't really shelter my boys from violence too much.
From the news, we don't. Yeah. From school shooting type things, we don't. We're, you know, from abductors, like we had a neighbor not long ago that had a record and was... can you help me out with that? I don't want to give specifics, but
sex offender.
Yeah, so like the kids were always on guard outside, high alert, watching for let us know every time they saw his vehicle. So we don't, you know, we try to train them up in that way.
Well, we live in a world, and we're sheltered from it a lot here in America and the Bible Belt, but we live in a dangerous world, and it is violent. And really, the only counterbalance to that, it's not so much whether you're violent or whether you're not. It's are you good or are you evil, you know? And so, like I want my kids to have the ability, I want my boys to have the ability to be extremely violent, but I want them to be good. You know, I want them to be that in defense of innocence.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like we was talking about on the last podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how we got here because we're talking about
We're all
education,
something.
but I guess that's my
training.
side.
But it's
of-
We're in training.
Everything is educating.
yeah,
Yeah.
It
and
really is.
you know, that's kind of my 2 cents on
Yeah,
that.
you need them to be violent in the face of danger or
Be able to protect
protection.
themselves.
Yeah.
Protection, not violent as in being the aggressor, but being the protector and the defender. And you can't have a guy that doesn't know what gender he wants to be being a very good defender. They got to be men. You got to be strong and tough. And don't close your eyes at me, man. She's looking at me weird because I had to
Fall
go.
asleep a little bit.
But you know, that's another thing too. We've been upfront with them about that. You're going to run into these people.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what God's word says about it. And
Now,
you
our
know.
older ones naturally know more and understand
Yeah.
more than our
Yeah.
youngers, but within time and maturity level, we'll continue
Absolutely.
to train and educate.
Plus,
Yes.
with them watching the news and stuff, like we're kind of like that too, where we don't shelter much with that because we want them to know, like, that everybody's not, you know, nice, and
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if they're a policeman or a teacher or whoever,
Yeah.
like,
A pastor.
doesn't
you're
mean-
bringing up something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. You know, I don't know how y'all were raised, but we're raised to respect your adults. You know,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
like you don't tell an adult no or whatever. I'm starting to buck on that. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing.
No.
You know,
We've had these. We've actually had that conversation.
Yeah, because it's hard. You want your kids to respect and be, you know, kind in all the things and respectful to their aunts and their uncles and all the things, but then you don't know where to. It's hard to like explain to them that there's fine lines too. Like,
you can say no to an adult.
Yeah.
You know, that's and
Yeah.
you know, we kind of got a little situation with at Sunday school. One of ours is we kind of got wind that they're acting up a little bit. So I find myself saying, you do what your teacher tells you to do.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, what if,
No.
what if you find yourself in a situation with somebody, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I feel like we've had this conversation. I know me and Autumn have, but I feel like we've talked about. I don't even know if it was on a. I guess probably wasn't on a podcast. I feel like we've had a conversation similar to this, and one thing that I've kind of, I guess, realized is, in our home, if Autumn needed to check on one of my daughters, their physical condition, maybe they have something going on, and it requires beneath undergarments. Their father's not going to come and ask them to take their apparel off so that I can inspect. I'd be like, no, that's an Autumn thing. So I think even in the home would be a good start for
Yeah.
teaching that in the sense
Appropriate
that
and non-appropriate.
I don't walk into the bathroom when my kids are taking baths. Now, when they were little babies, that was different because I needed help with something. But as my kids are getting older, especially, I'm not walking into the bathroom. I'm not in any situation that would have a man, because I have daughters, have a man around my daughters in a compromising way. And it's not because I'm like,
where they
I'm
think,
scared
oh,
of
it's
everything. It's just
okay if there's
at
a
some
man
point,
in
I'm like, I don't need to go into the bathroom when my daughters are in there. Like,
Yeah.
and so I think that for them, if there was a man approaching them trying to be inappropriate,
They'd be like, well,
the example set in our home is, well, my dad's not
Yeah.
ever present for these situations, so why would this guy need to be? And I'm hoping that, I guess in that sense, it would help kind of gear their mind into, no, this isn't right, and
Be
stay
very
away.
upfront about that.
Yeah, so I thought I had a conversation with you guys. I don't remember who it was, but
I bet we've talked about that
Yeah.
before because I can remember you
yeah.
saying that.
So yeah, I think there is some ways of helping them understand that without getting graphic about it. But at some point too, when they get older, you're gonna have to kind of be a little bit more blunt about it and just saying like, this is things that happen and we have to protect.
Because in
from
the
that.
unfortunate world we live in, family members can do things that are not
Yeah.
appropriate.
Exactly,
Church people
yeah.
can do things that are not appropriate. And we
Yes.
have one particular child that would get in the car with anybody
Oh yeah.
Mm.
and wouldn't think anything
Wouldn't think
about it.
nothing about
Especially
it.
if you tell him, con him into saying, we're going to church, we're going to go do some music together, got you a new microphone, or let's go to Walmart and buy something. He's going to hop in that back
Yeah.
seat. and not check up.
So
and
that's a
scary.
whole nother area. I don't. How do you teach that? Don't talk to strangers, but listen to what he's saying. But
But sometimes they're not. Most of the time, they're not strangers. They're usually
that's
people
right.
that they know that they're comfortable with. Yeah.
That's true.
Well, that's actually
That
that
could
would
be
be cool to
another
have a topic
podcast.
on that. No, because this is things that people face. Anybody that has a child, this is reality. And we've been a parent now for almost 13 years. Parents now for almost 13 years. You guys,
12.
So we've been in it for a long time, and we're still saying, well, how do you deal with this? So we might have to do a podcast. It'd be cool to do some research, prayer, et cetera, and see if we can come up with something like this, because this is a man's podcast, but we also have women that do listen, and this is beneficial across the board.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I'm glad we kind of went there so that we
parenting's hard.
we can think about it. Yeah, and parenting.
Training our kids it's hard.
Yeah, I don't know how many episodes we plan on having in this topic. I mean, we could do 10 million and still not cover everything. So we're going to keep it to a minimum, but I want to do that. I want to talk about how we can work on, because I don't know. It'd be fun to learn other people's ways of teaching that.
Yeah.
So all of this is education. This is wow, it's such
and we're still learning and
you
growing
think
ourselves.
like when we were first talking about doing the education podcast, I was in my head, I kind of thought of like teaching. Like I was trying to keep discipleship and education like two different things, but it really comes down to discipleship. It really comes down to discipline. It's cool to see how really parenting your children, and you can break it down in all these different things, but it all really correlates together in an overall view. So this is more just pinpointing in the certain areas, just specific ways, I guess, of handling that situation. And the discipline one was really good because, I mean, me and you, Autumn, talked about it.
Yep.
And that actually had really good feedback. But I also, it just kind of made me think a little differently too on how we do things, how we did things, and the growth that we've had, and like the change. It's so crazy. And then this conversation of educating, like we only started homeschooling our kids 4 years ago, however many years ago. It's been a minute, but I've always been opposed to public school, but I was always open to, if my kids are going to have to go to school, it's going to be a private school. We ran out of those options here, and public school didn't work. So homeschool it is.
Yep. And
we're thankful for that. But, I think kind of overlooking everything and kind of bringing it back in, if you're in a situation that your kids have to go to school, disciple them, teach them in a way to be the light, not the follower. And even if they have a follower tendency, teach them to understand, like, when their friends are doing things that just are clearly not good, teach them to be able to discern that and have enough strength to say no. And that's hard because peer pressure is hard. Just the second thing I'm trying to remember exactly what you were saying in that.
Sorry, it was probably
no, it was good. It's just when I went off and started the first topic, I forgot because I can't remember anything. But Adam and Eve, they had everything. It was perfect. They literally had everything, but they needed that one more. They wanted that fruit so that they know good and evil. They just wanted that extra. And because of that, everything else happened. But now we have that same thing. We can be protected. We can be taken care of. We can do all these things. But there's something about us that we just have
There's
to,
still that
little extra,
Yeah.
that little extra. So, you got anything else? Anybody got anything else? Baby, got anything?
I
Courtney?
think it all comes back down to the Lord has entrusted our kids to us.
Yeah.
For every single person, whether it's a grandparent raising the kids or aunt, uncle, and it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah. And we have to take it serious.
Yeah, you have to take it seriously. You have to do a lot of prayer. And I'm thankful me and Brett are on the same page. If you have a spouse, that's so important to be on the same page and support each other. And to have mom friends too is another added bonus to support
just
each
like
other.
men need other
Guys
men
need-
for sharpening their iron, women need the same.
Yeah.
You guys need to do a podcast together on
hard.
women.
When I started, I didn't know any other
Yeah.
homeschool parent. Like,
I don't know
Not having a
either.
support group and being involved in that, I don't see how any women can make it through it really, because it is difficult. And I don't want to be the guy that's stuck having to educate my kids every day because they're going to, oh, that's going to be a mess. But, you know, God's given women a different, a passion and a care to compassion. And I don't know, men are just, women can do the nurturing and the teaching and it's great. God created all this for a reason.
Yeah.
And, but women do need support too.
And there's a book
And it's
that
awesome
I read.
that they
I think it's Loving Your Kids on Purpose. And he talked about they didn't homeschool, but he talked about how he had started doing like at breakfast time a like devotion with his kids, and how there was so much uninterest, like especially with his teenager at the time. But now as an adult, she told him that was like that was like the highlight of her day. Like even though she seemed like she did not want anything to do with it, like it uplifted her. It helped her start her day right, even though she was like, I don't want anything to do with this, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool too. Like to think, you know, when you teach your kids and it seems like they're just not getting it. It's like they're listening, they're paying attention, they're looking by example, which for me sometimes is hard because I expect more out of my kids than how I was raised. So I'll be telling them, oh, did you do your morning chores? And sometimes I'll look around and I'm like, I didn't do my morning chores. I'm like,
Do as I say, not as I do.
It's so hard. Like when you've lived 33 years of doing it this way and you want your kids to just do better, it's hard to change your own stuff too. So it comes back into the self-reflection. I guess I'm an advocate for like figure out yourself before you have kids and just
yes and no.
or even after you have kids. And
because
just figure it out.
having kids and our expectations of what they should be doing and not doing helps us look at ourselves. If we didn't have
true,
that,
too.
we probably wouldn't look at ourselves and say, oh, I need to fix this. I need to fix that. But, you know, for me,
Right.
getting into all of this, I wanted to be the best dad and husband that I could possibly be. Well, if I didn't have kids and I didn't have a wife, I wouldn't care. I would still be the crazy Jared that I used to be.
Yeah.
But because I have them and I care
Right.
about them, now it's like, what do I got to do to be a better husband? I'm going to start talking to my wife a lot better and treating her a lot better and controlling my temper a lot better and all these things. How am I going to be a great father so that my daughters grow up to be great women and don't allow schmucks like me to be their boyfriend or husband? You know,
They have higher
Giving them
expectations.
give them an example that they can see. I mean, I have
And
to be an example
kids,
for them.
I have kids that get kind of moody in the morning and they're like, I don't want to do this. I have an attitude. I get like that though too, where I don't
she
want to do
does.
any of it.
Yeah.
Rude. I don't want to do any of it. And I tell them, I'm like, go in your room, go pray, go read the word, and like just pray for a little bit and then come back out. And so I'll get kind of moody in some mornings, usually Mondays or whatever. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of moody. Like I gotta go. I'm gonna go on a walk. I'll be back in 10 minutes, you know. And I go and I come back, and I mean, it's very like just a whole family unit trying to figure it all out together. Relationships is a big deal because
Communicate.
so many times I'm just like I said earlier, like I just want to get this done and this done, and I know it needs to be done. And a lot of times with my attitude, I just want to get it done. And like, okay, you're done with your math. All right, next, you know, and then you're
Assembly
done with your
line.
math next, you know. And really, like when I realize what I'm doing, that I'm doing that, and I take it back to like relationship with my kids, like that's the big picture. Like we want to have a good relationship. We want to show love before we are like, do this, you know, because it changes the whole atmosphere of the house.
Yep.
And their work gets done faster, and just everything. They talk to each other more kindly when I'm, you know, when I figure that out and I go and work on myself. So, that was just a little bonus. Not really sure where I was going with that,
Well, they
but
play
you're
off of
welcome.
our moods too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I found that Brett says all the time, Mom,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I'm
If
if
she
I'm in a
ain't
bad
happy,
mood, if I have a headache,
ain't
then
nobody
everybody
happy.
else. Yeah. Something
Going to the
else.
chicken houses. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Yeah, something I've started doing this year is starting out with a share time. Of course, I'm usually the only one sharing. So I'm like, okay, let's come to the floor before we get into our Bible time, before prayer. Does anybody have anything we need to get off our chest? And then I'll model that. Well, I'm burdened by this right now. I'm really upset over what I've seen or what I've heard, and I'll be specific in that. Or I just didn't sleep well last night. I'm exhausted, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to push through today. I know y'all are tired too, but we're going to do what we need to get done. So I try to be open and real and give them opportunity to share too. And even
also not just throw the towel in and say, "Oh, I'm not having a good day. We're not doing anything."
that's right. We're going to push through.
Because that was me last year. I'm like, I hate everything. We're not
You know,
doing
I
this.
woke up and I'm tired. Forget it. You know what? We'll deal with it next week.
Perseverance. We're getting through it.
Last week, some of the boys, or maybe all of us, were in a mood. So after we did our Bible time, I said, we're going for a walk. We'll come back and do math later. So we went for a walk. Or last week, we played a bunch of games. And I told him, oh my gosh, it went on forever. Even the littles played. It was over an hour and a half of game. One game.
Wow.
Because it took forever.
Yeah.
And I told him, oh, I know, but they loved it.
Well, and that's it.
it's time
You're
well
building.
spent.
Yeah, it's time
Yeah,
well spent.
exactly. Because
then
if
I'm like,
if you'd have forced the schooling and all that, everybody would have been miserable, and they're going to remember that.
Now they go, is this all we have to do? Can we just play games today? And I'm like, well, we're going to play this one. Then we're going to do our math. Then if we have time, we'll go back and do another one. It may
you
have
go,
to go
yeah.
to tomorrow. And we might not get to science and history. But it's okay.
Yeah.
We've had good quality time spent together. And, having that bond is more important than any of the other stuff.
Absolutely,
Right.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, I'll quit talking.
No, that's good.
Oh, this was good. This is really good. I think we've covered it pretty well, and just really covered a wide spectrum of different things to think about. And anybody, are you guys satisfied in this conversation?
I think so. We could talk about it. Brett can tell you for hours.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
Courtney can, yeah.
There's just so many
there's-
different things we've not even touched, but we have covered a lot of things.
Yeah. So awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and through the kids playing and having fun in the background, and
Play drums.
they're having fun and they're enjoying each other, and our kids are playing with Brett and Courtney's kids, and they're just having quality time and having fun, and it's great. And I'm glad we could do it. And I also want to thank Brett and Blake for stepping up and
Yeah, you better.
holding the fort
That
down.
wasn't easy.
I heard you struggling there, Brett. It's okay, if you just pull the plug and breathe, and sound a little less like fried taters smothered in gravy.
He owned it, though.
That is who you are.
Yeah, he owned it and said, I don't have Jared's voice. I can't do this opener.
Yeah. I was dying. That was the best.
How is it? Like, I kind of understand what he means a little bit.
It's like you don't breathe.
No, he
What?
breathes.
No. He breathes when he's done talking. All right, this isn't roast Brett time. I just wanted to pick at him a little bit
Yeah, just
and say thank you.
bring it on. I can take it.
Thank you for taking charge. And it was cool. And I've told you and Blake, but it was cool to hear Blake step up and take charge in the last one.
Yeah.
And I wanted to thank Adam McCollum and Sam Howard and Tyler for coming on and being guests. And with that too, the conference is this coming Saturday in Tuscumbia at the Culbert Heights First Baptist.
Yeah.
And it's 4:00, starts at 4:00.
Yeah, I
And
think
goes
they're
to-
having a
Food
hangout,
trucks. Yeah.
cornhole, whatever.
Food
Yeah.
trucks.
Okay.
All that
Yeah.
sort of
And then the service starts at 6.
Yeah. So I invite everybody that's listening, if you're able, to come, because I think it's going to be really good. And the first conference was great. And he really charged men to look at themselves and start correcting some things. And I'm excited to see where this
Yeah.
conference goes and how they touch on it. And I love these conferences. It's cool. It's an opportunity for men to get together and have a good time and be held accountable a little bit more, and just see that there's other men out there doing this. You ain't alone. There's other men out there going through this, and we can work together as a team. And yeah, so I thank all of our guests for taking the time to be on. Thank Brett and Blake for filling in while I was gone. Not filling in, just stepping up and leading it while I was gone. And I do appreciate it. I'm so thankful that I'm surrounded by good men that keep this going. So with that, we appreciate everybody for listening. sharing, and we love you guys, and we're out. Thank you guys for listening. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram and follow us so you can stay up to date with latest podcast drops and content. Also, feel free to leave us a review on whatever streaming platform you're listening from. We'll catch you next week.